بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيدا والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا المرسلين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم. Assalamu alaikum. We always start as Muslims invoking Allah and sending prayers and peace upon our beloved Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and ask Allah to put barakah in our gathering, and ask Allah to purify our intentions, because we know that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Inna al-a'mal binniyat." Actions are by intentions. So whatever it is that you intend, Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. Alright, Allah is powerful over all things, so whatever it is that you intend, Allah can give it to you.
But let's look at the question, which is still a pressing question, of how we conceptualize this increasing tension that is going to exist between a religious community that has more or less consciously taken the decision to stay true to itself, not to sell out to some modernizing variety of it that just assimilates it into the pattern of an increasingly homogenized modern world. But the Muslims, who are the great dissidents of today's world, who continue to live their lives on the basis of ancient and immutable principles, and are increasingly conspicuous. They're the only ones who stand out. Nobody else has anything like the hijab or 5 daily prayers, things that are conspicuous. But we are the last upholders of a traditional model of humanity. Everybody else is making their compromises. What are the implications for doing that? Very courageous, and on the face of it, historians would say unpromising thing, given that the rest of humanity is marching off in a very different direction. I mentioned earlier that we could once have a good conversation with the Ahl al-Kitab because we share many values. And still, Muslims can have a good conversation with the Ahl al-Kitab if they're really conservative and faithful members of that community.
What do you do in a situation where your religious institutions have been taken over by partisan politics? Can you reject your local imam and formal bodies in favour of those out of your own local context?
It depends on the extent of the corruption. For instance, I was in a town in Bulgaria where the Mufti has his office in the mosque but doesn't pray. Everybody says, oh, he doesn't pray, he doesn't do that. In that situation, what is the authority of the Mufti? And my advice to the local Muslims would be that he's not really the Mufti, he is just wearing a salary. Usually it's not quite as extreme as that. And for the sake of the unity of the Muslims, you should generally adhere to the rulings of those people if they seem to be within the boundaries of the Sharia, whatever might be the political structures behind them. But there comes a point, and the Sharia will not exactly explain where that point is. It's an intuitive matter. And it may be different for different kinds of believers. Some people may have the ability to access other sources of scholarship, others may not have access to them, where the authority of those people lapses. So often it's a matter for the individual conscience, for a judgment call. The danger is sometimes in the Islamic world that people are so sick of muftis who are appointed by secular regimes that they don't take them seriously. Then they go online and they find something outrageous because they don't have the religious education themselves to know what makes sense and what doesn't. And there is a lot of that in the contemporary Islamic world. Individuals who join Al-Qaeda, for instance, because they don't like the rulings of the Mufti of Egypt, and they end up, because most of them have a science, technology, engineering background, following rulings that are completely outside the possible range of
I personally think that there is so much Islamic content from around the world, that Islamic stories that haven't been tapped into. I really wish that there was an industry for Muslims. I mean, because we're a quarter of the world's population. I mean, it's not like there isn't a market for us. I mean, fair enough, we download from torrent and we burn DVDs, and it's like we aren't going to have the same sort of sales. But I think there's so many stories, so much history that we aren't telling, and there's been a gap since movies have been made, since the Ottoman Empire, the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. I mean, we stopped. We really stopped, our leadership in the world. And can you imagine if if the Ottoman Empire was still leading the world, or any Islamic empire leading the world, and movies came out, and how much more it would benefit us, and how much more, the Islamic stories would be just changing the positives of the world, just making things better.
Chapter of the Quran. Create one chapter like the Quran, and bring whatever disposal you have to create to help you. Beside Allah, if you are really truthful, this is the great challenge of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to anybody who disbelieve or who are skeptic in the truth of the Quran. Create one surah, one chapter, and the shortest surah in the Quran, there are only 3 verses. For example, I give one example in A'tayna Al-Kawthar. Fasalli li rabbika wanhar, inna shani'aka huwal abtar. Maybe the present day people will think that, oh, this challenge was 1,430 years ago. Now we have computer programmer, we have anything, you name it. We have great scientists. You got scientists like Stephen Hawking. We have scientists like Michio Kaku, and so on and so forth. Maybe these people will be able to create one surah like the surah of the Quran.
If Allah says perfected, that is perfect. Because we cannot come to grips with the thinking of Allah. Because why? Okay, for example, we go to the Hajj. Why is it we cannot cut our nails during Hajj? You have to pay dam. We did that. Right? Why don't we pray for 2 rak'ahs in the Fajr prayers, but 4 rak'ahs? But I have more time. No, I have more time in the morning. I work in the afternoon. Or I can adjust it according to my schedule. I can't. Because that is what Allah has said for us to do. And that's right. There's no way to disprove it. How can we disprove Allah?
No, Muslim or for everybody?
No, it's just a matter of subject. So the subject now is the how he dakwah. But if you put another subject, it would be the simple approach, a similar approach as well. So I put it this way: the subject is universal.
I liked the event. I thought it was done really well in the 3 parts. I really liked the first spoken word poets. It's always nice to have actual people in front of you doing things, and that sort of fed really well into the documentary. And the Q&A was very, very good as well. For me, it's all new. I'm not Muslim, so I'm not Muslim, so it's all new and it's all really interesting to learn about and to understand the different kind of struggles artists go through.
Would you like for more programs like this, open up?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna come for the next one.
Okay.
It'll be really interesting. Yeah, because they show the culture in other places, and they show how they try to mix Islam into the culture, and how it either goes well or it doesn't go well.
It's a brilliant thing because a lot of people fail and still can't discern between culture and religion. And I think the way he handled the dialogue and a lot of the questions, which will always definitely be coming from this area, was very brilliant because it is not easy to be impartial. And when you're doing a movie or any creative expression, you put a lot to not put himself in there. And that's a brilliant job.
It's hard to
because he's not even, in my opinion, he's not even trying to da'wah. Point is, he's trying to say there's so many people trying to da'wah. Some are right, some are wrong. Some are clueless, some are not. Some are just so arrogant and so self-assured.
The event itself was straightforward. It was good. I think it was well done. The community seems very interesting here as well. I'm actually from the U.S. This is my first interaction with a documentary out here, and I was happy to see that it was put together well. And yeah, it was fun. It was good.